Hi everybody, we're back. Kathy's in the kitchen. Welcome. Hopefully you'll take the time to like and subscribe to Kathy's in the Kitchen to get notifications on future shows. Today we're going to be working on marinara sauce, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about pasta. The first thing we're going to do is take a look at the different types of pasta that there are. As you can see, there are 4 kinds of dried pasta and a package of fresh pasta. I'll show you the differences a little bit. For those of you who are not aware, this is fettuccine, and fettuccine has a little flat note to it. This is linguine, which is a little bit smaller but also flat. This is angel hair, tiny bitty, little bitty angel hair. This takes the shortest amount of cooking time. Each of these first 2 takes anywhere from 10 to 12 minutes, and this last one is spaghetti, which takes also about 10 to 12 minutes. Okay. So you choose the pasta based on the kind of sauce you're going to be using, and this particular sauce could take any of these pastas. We're choosing to use the linguine, the soft linguine, because that happens to be the mood that I'm in. That's really all for that. So for the marinara sauce, I'm going to be giving the recipe based on 1 can of tomatoes. That's a 28-ounce can of tomatoes. And then depending on how many tomatoes you're going to be using, you double or triple. It works evenly across. We're going to be using 3 cans today. First, you're going to take some olive oil. You're going to need 2 tablespoons of olive oil per can. We'll sprinkle that in there. And then we're going to add garlic. Garlic is a touchy subject for some people with their marinara sauce. We happen to like a more garlicky flavor, so we use 2 large cloves of garlic for every can of sauce. So I've started this olive oil, and it's going to pick up pretty quickly, and so therefore we move quickly. The next thing you're going to put in there, if you remember from the basil show, these little packets of basil, we're going to be putting in 3 packets of basil right into the oil. And that what that does is it lets it bloom. So you have a really much more flavorful basil taste to the sauce. And finally, the same thing goes with the parsley. We're going to put that in here. Now, you're going to use 3 sprigs of parsley and 3 packets for each can, and 3 packets of basil. Well, that smells yummy already. Next, we're going to put in the tomatoes. Now, what I've done is I've taken the 28-ounce cans and I've put them into a larger bucket. You're going to very carefully pour it into the pot. So we have the bulk of the marinara sauce going. Now this is a very quick sauce, and it's called marinara sauce because it was based on the mariners who used to take the cans with them and the garlic real quick to make a very quick dinner for themselves. They would carry the dry pasta in their back pocket and bring it all the way in, and bring it with them when they were off to work. So this is started. The only seasonings we're going to add to this are salt, and I happen to be using sea salt right now, and it's 1 teaspoon per can, and a half a teaspoon per can of pepper. So everything is in the pot now. You'll notice that I've used tomatoes that are whole. You can buy them crushed already, but once they're crushed, you don't know what condition they were in when they were first put into the can. So what I like to do is to crush them myself. There are 2 different ways to do this. This is your potato masher. It's another way to use it. You can just gently push down on the tomatoes and go around the pot. Just very gently. And that will crush them and keep it, they'll keep some of their form and some of their shape, and it gives it more of a pomodoro, which is another kind of sauce. Basically just means you have chunkier pieces of tomatoes available to you. That's one way. Another way is to use an immersion blender and just put it down into the tomatoes and press, and it will cut them up for you directly into the pot. Now these things are really lifesavers. I don't know how I lived my life without it before. It's very inexpensive. Usually you can find it for under 20 bucks. And you use it for a lot of things. You use it for making dressings. You use it to making mayonnaise, all kinds of. I use it for soups and stews, where you want to make sure that the larger pieces are broken up. You don't want to completely crush them because you still want to have some of the flavor. So as you can see, it's kind of chunky. It's meant to be chunky. As it cooks down, and like I said, you're going to need a good 20 to 30 minutes for the sauce. It's a beautiful sauce. It's a very quick weeknight sauce. There's no reason, it takes you just as long to heat up the pasta as it does to make the sauce. So there's no reason to have to run to get a jarred sauce. And here you can control all the seasonings that you want. Now, as soon as I started this, I should have mentioned earlier that I put the pot of water on to heat to the side. So let me move that over. Pot holders. Never touch a hot pot if you can help it. So that's mostly has been up to a boil, and now it's just waiting to come back to the boil. So we're going to come back when this is ready, and I'll show you what that looks like. We're going to drop the pasta as soon as the pasta comes up to a boil. Remember that the pasta, depending on which one you're going to use, is going to take you anywhere from 2 minutes if you're using angel hair pasta or a fresh pasta, versus 10 or 12 minutes if you're using the drier pasta. So keep an eye on the time, but generally speaking, by the time the water comes up to boil and you drop the pasta in the pot, you'll be working at this finishing up around the same time. So we'll be right back. So one of the things I forgot to mention earlier is that for every can of tomatoes you're using, you're also going to use 2 tablespoons of sugar, and that's to taste. Some people like it sweeter, some people don't like it as sweet. If you're using, for example, a can of tomatoes that's San Marzano, which is a better quality tomato, you may not need as much sugar. So you want to be a little cautious when you use sugar with the San Marzanos. This happens to be half and half San Marzanos and half regular tomatoes. So I split the difference and I added the sugar just after we cut. Now, about this, we're using the fresh pasta right now. It's only going to take 2 minutes for this thing to cook, so I'm going to drop the pasta in the pan. Also, be careful to read the package. I'm going to just gently drop it in. The package says only 2 minutes, and trust it. Stand by it. Don't, for any minute, leave it, because you do not want it to get mushy. It'll ruin the whole thing after you spent all this time. The other thing is to taste the sauce as you go along. Now, while we had a little break, I had my husband taste it, because he's the true expert, the guy who was raised on this stuff. And he says to me, doesn't need a thing. But, sometimes it might need a little bit more sugar, depending, like I said, on the tomatoes. It might need a little bit more salt. It might need a little bit more pepper. Up to you. The other thing I did while we were on break was I started to grate the cheese. We like to use Parmigiano Reggiano when we have it available. If not, then we use the Pecorino Romano. This stuff is dangerous. It's so good. You just can't wait to eat it. So we've shredded some of that, and we're ready. Now just keep an eye. Like I said, this thing is only going to take a few short minutes, and we will come back to you and show you what it's like when it's all plated up. Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention, because I got the question as soon as the camera's cut, is why 3 cans? Because we happen to have a neighbor who's a vegetarian, and every time I make this sauce, she loves it. So what I do is I get myself a little ball jar, fill it up for her first, get it put to the side so it can cool off while we have our dinner, and then I walk it on over. Hope you have a neighbor that you can share with too. We have the pasta in the bowl. It's been drained and it's just sitting here waiting. Now remember, when you're cooking the pasta, it continues to cook when you take it out of the water. So you want to really keep an eye on the time so it doesn't overcook. There's nothing worse than mushy pasta. So we're going to plate it as I was taught, which is just put a little bit on the top. In this case, I like to use 1 scoop for every can, and you just keep tossing it to get the sauce incorporated well throughout all of the pasta. The next thing you're going to do is move that gently to the side, is to put the rest of the sauce in a bowl. Same thing that you would serve your Thanksgiving gravy in. Scoop it in, and then that accompanies the sauce to the table. Because you're bringing this to the table. You sprinkle with the Parmigiana. Here we go. This is Reggiano that I'm putting on here. As I said, you sprinkle some here. You bring the rest to the table so it can be grated at the table by the people who are lucky enough to be called your guests. Last trick is to take some fresh grated pepper all around the top. Boy, oh boy, is this going to be delish. And you present that to your guests. And boy, oh boy, they'll want to be back for more sooner rather than later. This is by far the most requested recipe I have. Even my own mom called up and asked me for this. May she rest in peace. Enjoy. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Hopefully you'll also enjoy the sauce. See you next time.